Happy Halloween! Hope everyone is doing well and enjoying the holiday, because from tomorrow until like mid-January, all you're gonna be hearing is Mariah. So earlier this year, JPEGMAFIa and Danny Brown dropped a collab album, Scaringthe, and it's what many would call Album of the Year. Now, whether or not if that's true is up for debate, but I've honestly only heard good things about this album. It has a short runtime though, just about 30 something minutes and just 14 tracks, so let's discuss it track by track. Lean Beef starts off the album with a sample from I Need a Girl Part 2, which gradually speeds up to the point where it's really hard to recognize. I still do appreciate it being here though. It also has some drums on the production, and when the bass line drops, it completely sucks the air out of the room. As far as Peggy and Danny, their performance here is equally good, however it's a bit hard to understand what they're rapping about. And the poor mixing doesn't help either. It kinda sounds like someone's rapping without taking their ADHD meds, like it's very special. Steppa Pig, the second track on this album, also has a sample, surprisingly from NSYNC, which is really hard to catch on your first listen, but it's there. But more importantly, the production is superb. It's probably my favorite instrumental on this album. Danny starts off the track with a very encouraging tone, basically saying I did the hard part already, and that BBC One extra line, that's great. And then Peggy comes in with this very I don't give a fuck attitude, flipping off everyone, white people, black people, rappers, just anyone that he feels disrespected by. He has a line here that goes something like, these niggas dick riding for grown ass men that don't even know you, which perfectly describes opium fans. This track, the title track, has some sax and drums on the instrumental. It also has clapping, which I can't tell if it's like a standing ovation clapping or is it did you pray today type of clapping. Either way, it's interesting to say the least. The song itself is more about music and less about the music. Basically, they're saying that their style and genre-bending music isn't typically received well by most audiences because they don't conform to typical industry standards like autotune, etc. That their music would scare the hoes, which it kinda does. They also dismiss current hip-hop because it's less about bars and more about brands. Now, my take on this is very simple. Just because music sounds different doesn't mean that it should be shrugged off. Like, I know people who listen to Drake, and any music that isn't Drake, they're automatically not interested in. And I'm saying that as a fan of Drake. But on the flip side, just because you're doing something different and your music sounds different doesn't make it good. You being salty about some people not liking it also doesn't improve your music. And continuing down that road just leads to the current Eminem effect. So remember a little while ago when I said the mixing was bad? It still is. And the samples and beats just continue to get more weird, which isn't bad. It has some really dope guitar chords that sounds very scorched. If anything, it sounds really punk rock inspired. Lyrically, it's just a continuation of the last track. It's critiquing modern hip hop and its lack of focus on the music itself and more towards these artists and what they're pushing, like brands, clothing, etc. But so far, I like all of these songs. Fentanyl Tester, which is just an insane thing to say, yet again is another track that has a very interesting beat that sounds a bit electronic and has break beats which incorporates samples from Milkshake, which is just wow. It just grows and holds your interest like you're being transported through a very trippy DMT high. Which isn't a coincidence because they also discuss drug use and things that are typically associated with it. This track is phenomenal. It's an orchestration that sounds like a soundtrack to an old western that's been slightly updated, as it also has some hard-hitting 808s which adds to how triumphant it sounds. For those of you who've still managed to have a girl after listening to this album, please practice safe sex unlike what these niggas are rapping about. And to the 99% of you that don't, please continue doing what you're doing. Hopefully your bloodline dies with you. I'm not a fan of this track, to be honest. It really doesn't hit or register with me. I mean, the beat switch is cool, it has some interesting flows, it even has some good one-liners, but I just don't think it's for me. And I've heard it multiple times. I don't think it's bad though, I just think I wanted more than what I got. Orange Juice Jones has a fucking Michael Jackson sample, which I have no idea how they managed to clear, but props to them for doing that because that's really difficult to do. Danny really does elevate this song to a different plane because the legwork that he puts in here is remarkable. Lyrically, it's very much set 8 kids, but you're here more so for the vibe. Kingdom Hearts fits on this album really well. It's just very heavenly to listen to, it's very smooth, and I think it just improves the overall listening experience when you're going back to this album and listening to it in its entirety. Even the feature here is really well. Danny and Peggy takes us back to church with this song as it has a gospel sample that is interrupted by one of the most fried bass lines that I've heard. And as you'd expect, there's a lot of biblical references, something about a girl throwing a thong like David and Goliath. Also baptism and pussy, just a lot of sex in church. Like, not the greatest collaboration that you would think, but it's there. Looking like shit. Your bag is looking like shit. That ass is looking like shit. Almost 30, don't know who you is. Jack Harlow Combo Meal is, in my opinion, the best song on this album. It speaks about the difficulties of just existing as a black man, the danger, the violence, the struggle, even the stereotypes and environment that contributes to an overall hardship. And with Jack Harlow being in the title, it's there for good reason, as the line says, "You'd let Jack Harlow sell you fried chicken," which is unironically one of the most deep and profound thought pieces that I've heard. He's successfully infiltrated black culture, potentially appropriated it for profit, and still has not made any sort of meaningful contribution. It's just a lot to think about. Yeah, my bitch, she's so perfect and bad. And I love her, she's shaking that ass. Go ahead, girl, put that crumb in the bag. These niggas. I don't know if I'm special, but I feel like the tempo in this song changes because in the beginning I start tapping my feet on beat and like halfway through I'm off beat. The instrumental is the mixture of lo-fi and gospel with heavy presence of an organ and drums. Peggy is talking about his girl and how good he is, and Danny is speaking about poverty and him needing support. Very cohesive, and I also like the outro to this track. So Where You Got Your Coke From, Not Pusha T, is the closing track on this album, and it is as good as any other track here, but as a closer I think it exceeds expectations. The production is creative, it's insane, it sounds like it's eating itself while maintaining a sustainable listen. Lyrically, it's a bit all over the place. There is a line that goes something like, "You fucking my bitch is an assist," which no it isn't, but solid song. So that was JPEGMAFia's and Danny Brown's Scaringthe Hoes, and it's a shaky 7, maybe an 8. Now, it is a good album. It has very great rapping, amazing creativity, and most importantly, it's fun to listen to, but it does come with a few shortcomings. The production is incredible, but sometimes the mixing is just really bad. I love the fact that their rapping and lyrics have value, and sometimes they don't take themselves too seriously, but it comes to a point where it's difficult to recognize when to take them seriously, because it's hard to differentiate. I love samples, and here they're very imaginative with how they use it, but it's almost on every single track, which I don't have an issue with, because some albums just are entirely samples with other people rapping, but it typically has a theme. Here it doesn't. It sounds more like, I don't know, like a meme compilation. I know some of you may like this album for the exact reasons that I listed that I didn't, which isn't really that much, but it's still a fantastic album. Maybe after some consistent listens it might grow on me, but as far as album of the year, I think we'll still have to see, because there are a couple more albums that I still need to review of this year that's like really highly rated. Standouts for me would be that Jack Harlow track, the opening track, and that gospel track. But those are my thoughts and my opinions. You can let me know yours. Links to the album will be in the description. Please form your opinion, and thank you for watching. Bye.